If you thought that the Quant news couldn't possibly get any better, well, guess what? We haven't even heard the best part of everything yet. So in today's video, I'm going to break down this new news and why a specific date could be the catalyst for 1, 2, 3, 400% gains in Quant Network from the current price. Guys, this is next level news. You're going to want to hear all about it. So before we get into this awesome news, I've got to give credit where credit is due. I wouldn't have this alpha information if it wasn't for Greg and 𝗡𝗍𝗩𝗣's conversation on their weekly Twitter spaces called Wi-Fi Money. Now, if you want to go ahead and listen to this, I highly suggest you do. I'll leave the link to this particular tweet down below. And Greg and 𝗡𝗍𝗩𝗣 both talk about this new news, this extra bit of news that no one currently knows, okay? So give both of those guys a follow at GregLunt27 and at CryptoNagato. Now, this very tweet is where everything I'm going to talk about stems from, okay? And it's going to get quite interesting, right? I'm going to really try my hardest not to repeat myself because you guys obviously know what the hell is going on if you see my content. So the BIS says, yesterday morning, the annual economic report for 2023 will explore combining money, assets, and information on a common programmable platform, #unified ledger. That's Quant. They're referring directly to Quant there. I think you have to be not all there in the head to disagree with me, okay? We're going to circle back to #unified ledger in just a second, but the main takeaway here is this, right? The annual economic report will be coming out shortly, approximately the 25th of June this year. Now, this is significant, okay? Because before, the recent news up until now, we know that BIS has been working. We have confirmation working, right, with Quant. But we haven't had confirmation that they're using Quant moving forward. This economic report will be the confirmation of that. Now, again, 25th of June is the full report, but a special chapter will be released on the 20th of June, okay? That's in 3 days from today. And this is significant because when this report comes out, you guys need to be on that ASAP, Control F Quant network, because if they're name dropped, and there's a chance they might not be because the CBDC for specifically, at least the UK, might not be coming out for 2030. But I want to say this report has nothing to do with the UK in a way. This report has to do with Quant being leveraged by the BIS. Essentially, you need to be on your ball, okay? Because if they're name dropped, then there's probably going to be a good chance that Quant is going to be leveraged by the BIS. And what does that really mean? Well, it means that the BIS is going to obviously tell every single central bank under their wing that you need to use this because this API solution is what's actually working. We've tested it, okay? And yeah, there's 63 central banks under their wing. All of the big major countries are mentioned here, okay? And of course, the UK is one of them through the Bank of England, right? And so what it looks like to me is that the current workings, right, they've been working within the UK itself, it seems to be like it's actually worked out. That's kind of what I'm getting from all of this. And so in this report will be the confirmation of that. Now, this is going to play a huge role in the price of Quant because if it's confirmed, again, we're not talking about extracting possible value here from maybe the UK economy, right? Even if that does happen, but we're talking about every other central bank, okay? And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a moment. I've got a tweet here from 𝗡cie𝗿𝗍𝗩𝗣𝗡, a series of tweets where he goes over just how possible this could really be. As you guys should all know, right, this is the report mentioned from the Bank of International Settlements, this tweet right here, on pretty much APIs and how the API is essentially going to be the building block or the structure, the infrastructure connecting the public and private sectors, okay? And just to go one step further, this was the appendix of that report. And Quant and UST, which are both partners, by the way, were mentioned as the vendor team, right? So they were the ones helping, used in this report to see how feasible this actually is. And of course, they were working with, Amazon, Bank of Canada, Barclays, MasterCard to actually test out and see if this was really feasible. Stress tested, essentially, right? This is 𝗡cie𝗿𝗍𝗪𝗡𝗩𝗅𝒛's thread. Now, I know I hate kind of going through threads and reading them out word for word for you guys because you can all read and every other YouTuber seems to do that. But trust me when I say this is going to explain a lot. If you're currently a bit murky right now in terms of what the hell I've been talking about, this will hopefully clear things up for you. Because essentially what he's saying in this thread is that once a system has been proven to be working, right? So obviously the BIS, more specifically, Project Rosalind has proven to be working, right? They've tested it in the UK economy with Amazon, MasterCard, Barclays. You guys know the other names, right? And so From here, we're waiting for confirmation from the BIS themselves that that was good. Now we're going to actually use it and apply it to all other central banks. And so he pretty much says that the likelihood that this will be the case is like 100% essentially, right? So let's get into it a little bit here. Central banks are not innovators. They tap on the private sector for this, like, Quant Network, for example. Central banks share notes amongst themselves. Their governors literally congregate and huddle at least once per quarter. Central bankers fear most about career risks and optics. After all, they've been amongst the best job stability. So what this means is they care more about making sure things don't fail, opposed to things being super advanced and sexy. Makes a lot of sense. So if something meets their safety and security requirements, it's a done deal. They will stick with it for a very, very long time. Now, Quant's underlying blockchain infrastructure, right? So the BOE, or Bank of England, endorsed a piece of infrastructure is akin to the government building roads, right? Everyone else will adopt and use it because it doesn't make sense to try and build another competing set of roads. Again, they've tested it with the Bank of England, right? And also, the Bank of Canada was obviously a part of that report because they obviously tried testing a transfer from the Bank of England to the Bank of Canada, okay? So they've stress tested this. And therefore, if these infrastructure, right, this road, which is Quant Network, has proven to be correct and stress tested, they're going to want to use it everywhere. Again, it's a great analogy right there. MasterCard, BNYM, Amazon, and others will focus on what to build on the underlying infrastructure, not try to compete against it. It just doesn't make monetary sense to do so. Architectural monopoly secured. Now think about 𝗡cie𝗿𝗡𝗩𝗣, an oft-used example of network effects, and that's very powerful here. He mentions network effects is not perfect, but more people will use it, the more people will use it, right? Same applies for technological architecture and infrastructure. So if you're a boomer heading up a central bank and your major fear is effing up bad at DLTs, which is super novel and not really your usual circle of competence, right? What do you actually do? Well, you're going to obviously copy and paste / adopt successful tests and implementations at other central banks, especially the Bank of England, right? Now, central bank governors literally meet at the BIS office in Basel every year, or at least very regularly, right? It's a club. Now, you can imagine if someone who used to be from their club has a solution that solves problems they have been discussing amongst themselves, right? Banks won't fight the regulators that regulate them, obviously, so they too will adopt whatever underlying infrastructure central banks have advocated for. And he says down here, oh, by the way, a heads up, big banks like Solomon and Goldman Sachs, Diamond, JPM, etc., they do visit the BIS's Basel office regularly, which is like their main office, right? Now, the BIS is an orchestrator and common forum for central banks and is also an orchestrator and common forum for private sector banks as well. Wow, that is a lot to absorb, but hopefully you guys have followed. Again, how I kind of summarized it at the beginning of reading this is essentially what he's pretty much saying here. It's once it's been proven, tried and tested, especially it has been right now with the Bank of England, we've had now confirmation of that. The BIS is taking that, okay, this is working. Let's now go ahead and apply that, or at least recommend that to other nations as well. Again, the 20th and 25th will be a confirmation of that. And let's not forget about what Gilbert responded to a comment multiple years ago, saying that the central bank will announce what we're doing with them when, okay? He responded to a comment of this now deleted account saying, if you end up in an agreement with the central bank, would we find out? So guys, I mean, this is just absolutely perfect timing for us right now. So here's something I thought I would very quickly share with you, right? So this is a central bank, obviously, and these down here are blockchains, okay? Different sort of blockchain solutions, right? Ledgers, if you will. And these are the different cryptocurrencies right now fighting for the attention of central banks. It's a very competitive space, and ultimately it looks like most, if not all, central banks will just pretty much develop and adopt their own sort of custom blockchain or ledger, if you will, okay? Now, this is where Quant goes above that crap. So this is them down here, and let's say the central bank has chosen this project or created their own, okay? Quant says, forget about that. We're hashtag unified ledger. They are the interoperability. They're the middle ground. They're the central building blocks between central banks, other central banks, and things like Amazon, MasterCard, and the general economy, okay? The private sector. This is huge, right? Because it's absorbing not just the economy, but all different types of online and traffic relating to a particular country. Honestly, I couldn't think of a better time or project I've been more bullish on than right now with Quant Network. Now, the recent existing news that most people know about that's been sprucing the price up, pales in comparison to what could be coming out in a few days. Again, you guys should know by now, simply because it's the BIS saying to the whole world, hey, especially if they mention Quant by name, by the way, it's kind of important that happens, that black and white, Quant is our choice. And so therefore, large financial institutions and banks will now be looking towards Quant Network, because all of a sudden they know the BIS is probably going to recommend them when it comes time for CBDCs. Now, a lot of CBDCs are coming out come about 2025 to 2030. So this is the time to invest in your financial future. I don't think I've met a single person that's an advocate of CBDCs, especially not myself, but it is a way for us to escape the matrix. Once it happens, which is inevitable, guys, let's just go form a private community on an island somewhere. Definitely count me in. All right, take good care of yourselves, guys. More to come, and be safe.